Rainmaker in Splatoon 2 is another odd mode because squiddos that just do the turf war are gonna have no idea what's going on. It's also a lovely mode that can end in 30 seconds if the other team doesn't know what's up. TLDR, the stage is cold and its nips are poking their bad little selves through, and being the good Christian squiddo you are, you gots to cover the enemy's side because you're so giving. However, you only have one nipple hat and the other side is just as Christian and giving as you. You don't want them to outgive you, so instead you force your way into their home and cover their shame.
Stop.
Okay. Basically, at the start of the game, you got Katy Perry, and if you want to court the fair lass, you gotta burst her bubble first. Whichever team is doing the most damage will show by having the bubble swirl with their color. Be careful though, as when it pops, it'll nuke the opposing team surrounding it. Afterwards, she's in play, and you can grab her and show them what you're worth as you fire the fireworks. The Rainmaker needs to make it to the opposing team's goal pedestal, but it's actually pretty terrible at covering turf to get there. If your team has the Rainmaker and you're not the one sporting the RM, it is your job to protect it without question, like people on social media protect those who cry the loudest. Flanking can be useful, but your team can quickly be overwhelmed if you split early on. Try to save flanking for after an enemy to are dropped, and be sure no one else is trying to pull the same thing. Be sure to paint a path to the goal pedestal for the Rainmaker, since again, it doesn't really do the best at covering turf, and they need room to move about to dodge enemy fire. Do not move backwards. Stop it. Don't. Just don't.
Oh, but I was gonna
No! Stop! Any step backwards you take is a point for the enemy team, and if you burst while backpedaling, you've just done the enemy's job for them. It takes a moment to charge the Rainmaker, and don't feel like you have to fire non-stop, since if you were to blast away randomly and then had an enemy drop in front of you, you'd be an Undertale, cause that's bad time central right there. Instead, try to only fire when you can see enemies, or towards general ambushy spots. Try to stay surrounded by teammates since people will come from all directions. If you let your 3 teammates in front of you, it's very easy to get dropped from the back. Defense is pretty simple. You want to kill the person holding the Rainmaker ASAP since it will bring the bubble up and halt their progress. Even though they aren't your primary target, don't be afraid to aim at the teammates since a Rainmaker alone doesn't actually pose too much of a threat if you have the majority of turf. Again, don't fall for the flank non-stop meme. Look at how your teammates are behaving because if all 3 run off to flank, all it takes is one mate drop to have a clear path to your pedestal.
If the enemy has pushed close to your base, you can actually reset the Rainmaker by jumping off the map. It will bring it back to the center and rebubble it, but that can be the better option in certain situations.
Just because the bubble is up and ready to be popped doesn't mean it needs to be broken right away. The enemy can be waiting nearby to steal it if you're bursting a bubble all by your lonesome. It's also helpful to burst it with enemies around since there's a better chance of popping them with the bubble nuke. Super jump often since you want to 4-man the objective as much as you can, but always be smart about who you jump to since suicide buttons are never fun.
Any ink covering weapon that can also kill is preferred in this mode, such as the splatter shots or dualies. Buckets and brushes are useful for their kill potential, but variety is key. You need to cover turf, have distance, and a flank option. The ink armor is one of the most useful skills here, followed by Tinta missiles, especially with their recent buff. The sprinkler bomb is a pocket secret since tossing them down at the bubble almost adds an extra play ranking it.
If neither team dunks it, whoever got closest to the pedestal will win the match. Learning the maps is very important since this mode is so movement based. Study the quickest route to the pedestal and keep moving. Despite turf being semi-important, don't fall for the trash can meme, as this mode is still very kill-oriented, and you can't cover turf if you're dead. Keep aerosprays in Turf War where you can paint your special little corner, avoid enemies non-stop, get the most points and no kills, and delude yourself into thinking it's good.
Man, you really hate the aerospray, don't you?